you're worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And this is how you'll know. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money that takes money out of their pocket. If they paid you what you were worth, they would go broke. So what I suggest instead is I love investing in real estate, but what it comes down to is passive income or working one time and getting paid over and over and over again.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. Cool people come on to help us. Today, we have someone who's been investing in real estate since 2006 and now has over 30 single-family homes, 775 apartment units, and has coached over 1,000 students to invest in real estate from his podcast, Master Passive Income. He's now on a mission to help 1 million people to invest in real estate and become financially independent. Welcome my next guest, the founder of Master Passive Income, Dustin Heiner. Hey, Dustin, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Christine. That was a fantastic intro. Thank you so much. And I really love investing in real estate. And it's not necessarily, real estate's great, but it's what it affords me to do in my life. I don't have to work a job. I retired when I was 37 years old, or I call it being successfully unemployed. But now I go to the gym, hang out with my family, come on podcasts and talk to great people like you, just sharing with people how to invest in real estate. So thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming to share all your wisdom, because that's what everybody wants to know is how did you get started? How did you get into this place where you can be 37 and just hanging out and having a good time?
Oh, yeah. So I didn't start here. In fact, my family was relatively poor. Growing up, we lived in a 900 square foot house, 2 bedrooms. We didn't have any money. So I'm growing up just like most people, just, going to school. In fact, I was following the exact same path that we're all taught, the same path, where you go to school, you get good grades, and you take those good grades and go to a college, university, get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt, and get a piece of paper called a degree, and hopefully find a quote unquote career and work 40 plus years of your life, and then retire at 65, 70 years old and
then
live.
drop dead.
Exactly. Exactly. And hopefully live on 40% of what you managed to save that entire time working. That job is what I like to call it. It's a job because you're living just over broke. Well, I'm doing that exact same thing. Just we all have that same thing. In fact, I get the most stable, secure job you could ever think of. I start working for a local county government in California doing IT. Well, California is not going away. Technology is not going away. And government's definitely not going away.
That's for sure.
So the most stable job you could think of. But then I bought one rental property back in 2006. And that started making me money in passive income. I remember it was like $318 a month. That first check I was like, oh my goodness, I need to be an investor. I just need to continually do that. But you know what happens? Life started getting in the way. And my wife and I started having children, 1, 2, 3. And this is what really shoved me to become an investor. I get to share the story with you. So when my wife had our fourth child, we're blessed now to have 5 kids. But when we had our fourth child, I'm working a job and I go on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and all that good stuff, bonds with the baby. Well, after 2 weeks, I go back to work. And in that same week I go back to work, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? I said, sure. And I hung up the phone. I said, why in the world are they coming to the office? Like, this is not normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good sign. So I hang up the phone and I start thinking about, oh my goodness, before I went on paternity leave, about a month before, there were some rumors that there could potentially be layoffs because the county was having problems with their budgets. I immediately shook that off. I said, there's no way. I've got great seniority here. My bosses think I do a great job. I get raises all the time. So I get up and I start walking down the hallway to my boss's office. Well, this hallway is not very long. In fact, it's kind of short, but every single step I took, it felt like the hallway got longer and longer and longer. And it felt like my feet became lead bricks because the thought of potentially losing my job was starting to weigh down on me. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed, and I see his secretary there, super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? Sorry, would you please sit down? I was talking to my boss. She said, would you please sit down, take a seat? And I said, sure. And I go sit down, and she's kind of sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. Well, I take my seat and I start thinking about my life. This entire plan that we're all taught, if I get laid off right now and lose my job, did I just waste my life following somebody else's plan? And I thought, oh my goodness, we just had our fourth kid. If I get laid off right now, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing me. Then the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a coworker of mine with a piece of paper in her hands. She's noticeably distraught and definitely looks like she's devastated. She's not necessarily crying, but her world has been rocked. She passes by me, and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And this is the reason why I tell the story. I realized two things right there. So I take that layoff notice and I go back to my desk and I sit down. First thing I realize is that I need to make sure I can provide for my family. So I need another job. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county, a different department, wasn't having these issues. Check, got that. But the second thing, sitting there, just getting laid off, I realized I need to make sure this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody can take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized whenever anybody would ask this question, we all get this question, what do you do? I would always reply, well, I work for the county. I do technology for the county. We're basically projecting out to the world that the value that we put on ourselves comes from our job. I realize that's wrong. My value comes from my God and for myself and for my family. So right then and there, I started telling every single person that I am an investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's not my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. So quickly fast forward the story. Started buying property after property after property, each one making me $500, $600, seven or more, $100 a month in passive income. Now with 30 plus properties, I realized I'm losing money working here. So the last part of the story, I went to my new boss, or the good boss and all. I said, I'm laying you off. And we did jokingly, and he laughed too. And he says, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate that makes me money without working. So last quick part of the story, I would walk to and from my car to my job a mile and a half both ways. I've done it 1,000 times. Well, this last time I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never ever need a job again, as opposed to when I walked down that hallway that got longer and longer and longer, a different walk, but I felt like I was walking on clouds. And here's the reason why I tell the story is I realize that I'm worth so much more than anybody can ever pay me. And so for you listening, I want you to realize you are worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And this is how you'll know. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money that takes money out of their pocket. If they paid you what you were worth, they would go broke. So what I suggest instead is I love investing in real estate, but what it comes down to is passive income, or working one time and getting paid over and over and over again. Instead of selling your life, because that's what you do when you work a job, you sell your hour for money, for $1. Instead of selling your life, instead, you put your life in your own hands and you build the value so that you profit from all the value that you bring in. And with 30 plus properties, 750 apartment unit complexes, all these other investing now, all the businesses, because I have 40, no, let me say it this way. I have 40 plus hours of my life back. So you imagine if you had 40 plus hours of your life back, what would you do? Hang out with your family, go play golf, or, take up a new hobby, travel the world. I do that, and I create businesses. I love creating businesses. And now all those streams of income flow into my river of income, which is my real estate investing. I just keep buying more real estate. So I'll pause because you probably got plenty of questions.
Well, I guess the first thing that some people are in a position where they could buy a piece of property, right? Like I could maybe save up and buy an investment property, but it sounds like you were kind of fast tracking that. How did you manage to accumulate several pieces of property so quickly?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, the term I like to call it is scaling. We want to scale our business because honestly, every investor goes through this roadmap that I went through. Every investor goes through it. You start as a beginner, don't have any properties, then you buy one property. Then you try to get to 4 or 5 properties where the cash flow starts coming in. Then you need to become a builder where you're building more, not necessarily physically building homes, but building your business with more portfolio, with more properties. And then you start scaling. And that is, think about Monopoly. That's what we do. Is I love playing Monopoly in real life by buying properties and scaling up to multifamily or commercial investing. Now, for me, what I did in 2006, I bought my first property and just got married. I wasn't taught to save money. I was taught not to go to debt, but not to save money. My wife was, though. She was fantastic. And I said, hey, honey, can I take all the money? We just got married like 6 months later. Can I take all the money that you saved and buy real estate? That was a long conversation. Eventually, after a little while, she was like, yes, let's go ahead and do it. So I bought my first property. I was living in California at the time, bought in Ohio. This is 2006. Remember, everybody's saying, hey, you better buy now or you're never going to be able to invest. They're saying that now, and they said it back 2006. We know what happened, the crash. Not saying that there will be a crash now. I'm just saying things happen over and over again. So I bought that first property. Now, to answer your question about scaling, I bought that first property in Ohio, started making me cash flow. And because everything was appreciating so fast, I refinanced it. I pulled that cash back out to buy the next property. Apparently, it's called the BRRRR strategy: buy, rehab, rent, repeat, and I'll refinance and do it over and over again. I did that back in 2006. I've been doing that over and over again. In fact, I took that same, I think it was like $15,000 that my wife had saved up. I've recycled that over and over and over again to get to where I'm now. In fact, just 3 months ago, I bought a 325 unit apartment complex in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Fantastic property, $32 million property. We bought it for, I want to say it was like half of the market value. But long story short, what we do is we recycle our money over and over again. And then we utilize creative financing, which is other people's money. I know, and well, I'm gonna say it this way. I've used at least 16 or 17 different ways to get creative financing to buy the next property. But before I get there, on the money side, the only way that I could scale, and I've seen this with, I've coached thousands of investors now. Investors come to me and say, hey, Dustin, I got to 3 or 4 properties, but I'm pulling my hair out because I'm doing everything. It's like, well, what we need to do is stop being an investor. And you won't hear anybody else say this. I started saying this because people, when they become an investor, what they do is they think of it like a stock. They put their money in there and they just let it go. Or they put their money in a property and hope for appreciation. In fact, in 2008, when everybody was going bankrupt, I was worried because I was thinking, I'm investing. Everybody else is going bankrupt. What's going to happen to me? Well, what they were doing is hoping for appreciation, for the value to go up. What I did was I investing just for cash flow. And what's amazing in 2008, 9, and 10, everybody's going bankrupt. I made more money because I then invested for cash flow. Because sadly, when somebody loses their home in foreclosure, they have to live somewhere. So the demand goes up in rents or renters. And so my rents went up. And so for me, what happened was I recycled my money over and over again. But the key was building a business that I can then scale. Like I don't want to be all the 30 plus properties that I own that are single family homes. I maybe work, well, I don't want to work 30 minutes a day. I don't want to work 30 minutes a week. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all of my properties because I've hired experts in all the different states. I invest in 5 different states now. All the different states, I hire experts and they're the ones that do all the work. So the key is having a business that you can just put or buy more properties into and that business runs itself. And the other key is making sure you have creative financing using other people's money. I love that term to buy the properties. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's actually, I do some coaching over at the Boys and Girls Club, teaching the kids about entrepreneurship. And we talked about that. This kid said, oh, I want to start a bakery. I said, do you want to start one bakery or do you want to start a bakery business? And I said, and you need to go into it and exactly what you're saying. You need to go into it with a different mindset. If you just want to get up every day and bake bread and sell it, that's you, right? But if you want to have a business where you've got 50 bakeries around the country or whatever, that's a different mindset. And that's exactly what you went into it with. Like, I've got the mindset that I'm not going to, I'm not going to buy one house. I'm going to be a real estate investor And that means I need to have a team, right? I need to have a team of experts, people who know their business. I don't need to be out there swinging a hammer. I don't need to be out there fixing toilets. Right? I'm the guy who comes up with the ideas, and then I've got the team to take care of, to implement. But that's scary when you just have one property, right? When you're like, okay, I've got $318. How many experts can I purchase per month with that money, right? So you definitely have to have that mindset. Do you feel that you always had that, or was there a shift at some point?
Oh, man, that's a terrific question. No, 100% no. When I first got started, when you're a normal employee, you go to work and then you watch TV. We go to work, watch TV. Well, I was watching TV, late night infomercial came on in 2006, said, "Hey, we're real estate gurus. We're coming to your town, free 2-hour seminar." I was like, "Yay!" I didn't know what I was doing, so I went to it, and it was terrible. All hype, all sales pitch. Run to the back. It's normally $1 billion, but it's like $10,000 today for a 2-day seminar. Fast forward, I got suckered into that. And I took what little bit they told me, because they don't give much value, it's just all sales. I took what little bit, bought my first property. Well, in 6 months, my property manager started stealing from me. I was like, This is terrible." And now, if I would have given up, I would not be here today. I would not be coaching people. But I realized that I was looking at it from a wrong perspective as a quote unquote investor. And I said, okay, this has worked in the past for many people. I just got to figure this out. I've started many businesses in the past. I said, let me approach this from a business mindset. Let me build a business, getting the right people first before I buy the property. And for you listening, I want to help you understand how easy and simple it is. Let me give you an example or an analogy. Let's say you're going to start a convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all that good stuff. Well, you would not sign a lease on a location, open the doors, and set a box of candy bars in there on the ground. You wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. But what you would do is you would build the business first. You get the gondolas, so the shelving units, all the candy bars go on, the countertops, cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We build the entire business, and then every piece of property that we buy is a piece of inventory that we put into our business. So the 30 plus, I think 33 single family homes, my 750 unit apartment complexes, the hotels that I own, they're all inventory that I look at in my business. And so when you approach it with that mindset, then you have experts like Redfin. You probably heard of these websites: Redfin, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. Those are not experts. Those are just databases, companies that are just selling data. Who are experts? Those are the people there on the ground that work there all day, every day, that have their business managing properties, finding properties, inspecting, fixing up properties. In fact, I invest in Ohio, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, and Indiana right now. And my students, we invest all over the country. I've coached over 1,000 people, investors, to invest in real estate. And what we do is we first find the right people before we buy any real estate. Because sadly, I get people come to me and say, "Dustin, I did all the things that those TikTok gurus said. They, buy a property anywhere in the country, hope for appreciation, get a tenant in there, and then try to find a property manager." And then they say, "I tried to find property managers after I've done all this work. And every property manager I called, they said they would not manage it because they'll get shot there." I'm like, "Oh, you don't have an asset anymore. You have a liability."
Oops.
Yes, exactly. How much better if you build the entire business? No joke. This is what's happened for many people. But how much better would it be, instead of calling up a property manager and saying, "Would you manage it?" And they say no, and you've already spent thousands of dollars buying it and fixing it up. Instead of that, when you build the business first, like I'm suggesting, you call up the property manager, say, "Hey, property manager," instead of, "I already bought this property." No, you say, "I'm looking to buy this property, number one Happy Street." You tell them, "This is what you're looking for. Tell me, how much will it rent for? What's the vacancy factor? What's my clientele like? Will you manage it?" And a bunch of other questions. And if they say no, then you don't waste your time and money and effort buying that property. If they say yes, they'll tell you everything about the property. And this is how you'll know it's expert. I would call a property manager, "Hey, I'm looking to buy this property." And this property manager says, "Oh, I know that city. I know that street, actually. We have a property that's right around the corner, same size house. Zillow said we could get $1,600 a month for it. We tried. The most we can get was $1,450. Well, that's expert information, because if you try to make sure you're making money at $1,600 a month, but you can't to get that, you can only get $1,400, then you're losing money. So that's the biggest thing that I learned the hard way by doing it just like everybody else does. And now I'm on a mission to help 1 million people to invest in real estate, showing them the right way. We build a business so that we invest in properties that are our inventory and we hire experts to do all the work for us. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, but do you feel like you learned all that by just by trial and error? Yeah.
100% trial and error. And one thing I will add, so it was trial and error because back in 2006, there weren't podcasts, there weren't all this
Right.
free content out there. In fact, my podcast I started back in 2016, and it's just a solo show, me just teaching how to do the stuff. Because once I quit my job, I was like, I got free time, and I
What else am
enjoyed
I going to
talking.
do? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking about this. So let me just help people. And so it's just me coaching, giving out how to do this. And I learned by trial and error. I probably have spent doing it the wrong way 30, 40, $50,000 or more, just by doing it the wrong way and then figuring out the right way. And here's one more quick thing that I got to share. If you're going to be investing in real estate, you need to build a business first. That's number one. But here's the second big thing that most people completely don't even think about or even overlook. So 2008 crash happens. The people who are hoping the value would go up, they went bankrupt. I didn't. I made money if the market went up, if the market goes down, or if the market goes sideways. Because no matter what, I'm always making cash flow in the rents. Now, here is what we do: we become business owners. And then we also build income. I love the term being an income builder. So let me give you a quick analogy too. So let's say you had a candy bar business. You knew all day, every day, you can sell a candy bar for $1. And then you find, I can buy these candy bars for 50 cents. Well, you would buy as many candy bars as you could to sell them for $1. You'd make 50 cents. Now, what you would not do is you would not buy it for $2, hoping it's going to eventually sell for $3 in, a year or 2 years from. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd go broke. What you do though is you buy it for less and you rent it out you don't go into business to not make money every single month. And here's one quick thing about real estate investing that's amazing. Just like all businesses is very similar, all the same. Let's say you didn't have 50 cents to buy that candy bar, but you knew you could sell it for $1. You're like, man, I wish I had the money. Well, shoot, can't I just borrow money? So here's what we do. You don't have 50 cents, but it costs you 25 cents to borrow 50 cents. You're out of pocket 75 cents. You still sell it for $1. You make 25 cents every single time. You're like, how do I borrow more money? Because I know my business, I'm going to make more and more money. Same thing with real estate investing. Like I said, and we can dive into the creative financing that I've done too, and how I coach my students how to do this. I've recycled my money over and over and over again. And even I'll give you one quick advanced strategy. I've used credit cards to buy real estate. No joke. Literally use credit cards. It's definitely advanced. And the reason why I've done it is I know my business. Just like a candy bar. If you know you can sell it for $1 and it costs you 25 cents to borrow 50, you're out of pocket 75 cents. I knew without a shadow of a doubt I can buy this real estate, make it cash flow every single month, $500, $600, $700 a month in passive income. Now, since then, credit cards are paid off. I own the houses. They're making me money. I'm making even more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that what you do? You pay them off eventually? Is that the
Oh,
strategy, or you
no,
just pay
man,
the
you got some.
investors back?
Christine, you're really good at asking questions. So my risk tolerance is very high. My wife's risk tolerance is very low. And so I was borrowing lots and lots of money to scale. And here's one key, and Rich Dad Poor Dad talked about this. I never borrow money unless that money is making me money. And so all the money that I borrowed to buy all these properties to keep scaling, I then made money every single month. It made me richer doing that. But here's the thing: when I was quitting my job, I said, "Hey, honey, I'm going to quit my job. We got plenty of money coming in." And she goes, "Well, we have a lot of loans. If you die, I want all those loans paid off just in case something happens." Because part of me was like, I could take that money we have now instead of paying off loans. I could buy more real estate and make more money. She goes, "Nope, that's my risk tolerance. I need you to have these mortgages paid off." So out of the 33 homes that I own, I think I maybe have 3 loans out of all the homes. Oh, just because we paid them off. And that was my goal, was when I was quitting my job, income from my properties, income from my job. And my wife and I are really frugal. In fact, now I literally save 90% of all the money that I make and just buy more real estate. And so what I do is I paid off those loans, and even my home that I live in, free and clear. It's so, it's like, it's so freeing, and you could breathe so much. Well, the first month that comes around that you don't have that mortgage payment anymore, that, $1,500, $2,000, you could breathe. You're like, oh my God, is this what it's like to not have 2 grand coming out of your pocket every single month. But yes, so my risk tolerance, I borrow a lot of money, but at the same time, my wife, we have to kind of balance that. But
Yep.
for me now, majority of them are paid off. And the reason why, I make sure I'm making money every single month, and that cash flow pays off the mortgages faster. And let me give you a quick last thing I want to share really quick because I want you to interject. So if I buy one property that makes me $500 a month, and it could be long term, midterm, which is 30, 60, 90 days, it could be short term Airbnb, even co living. We do all these types. We do all these types of things in our investing. And if you buy one home that makes you $500 a month, well, that is $6,000 a year without working. Just imagine that, 6 grand without working every single month. Then it's just simple math. You just multiply it out, you scale. Let's say you get to 10 properties at $500 a month. That is $5,000 a month in passive income. That is $60,000 a year without working. 20 properties. That is $10,000 a month. More than likely, you listening can retire, quit your jobs, become successful and employed with $20,000 a month in passive income. That is $120,000 a month without even working. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate investing. We make sure we build a business, and then that business makes us money every single month. We hire the experts to do all the work for us, and then we make that cash flow. One quick last thing. My daughter, who's 16 years old, my oldest daughter, just bought her first rental property. She bought it for $125,000, took her life savings, got a loan. I coached her just like I could coach everybody else. And she's making $318 a month, every single month. And the one caveat I told her, I said, hey, honey, I'm going to help you to do all this, just like I help everybody else. But the one thing you must do is any money that you bring in from every single one of these properties, you cannot spend it. You have to save it to buy the next property. And if you keep doing this with your job and with this property, in let's say 5 years, you'll have hopefully 5, 7, 6, 7, 8 properties. You'll be making 4 or 5 grand a month. How many people at 21 years old are making 5 grand a month in passive income? So it's so beautiful. Having all this real estate coming in with passive income coming in.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I want to touch on one thing that we've kind of, you know, sailed over a little bit, but I know it's something that a lot of people face when they are in a relationship and they're trying to get him, do something like this. Like you say, you have a high risk tolerance, your wife has a low risk tolerance. A lot of people have trouble bridging that gap, and they end up either not being able to do anything or arguing all the time, people feeling uncomfortable. How did you, finesse that situation to get your wife to feel comfortable with
That's
this?
yeah. So I'll give you an example, and also a really good friend of mine. Yeah, his name's Tom Sylvester. He and I had two different perspectives. Our wives are different. Obviously, everybody has different personalities. So my wife, I was giving her the why I wanted. I kept saying why I want to invest in real estate, become financially independent. I gave her all the whys. Her disconnect, or what she needed, my wife's the type of person, she needed the what we're going to do and the how we're going to do it. She wanted to make sure, like, if I'm going to give you this money, well, obviously it's our money, it's married. I just didn't want to just take it and have her mad at
Right.
me. I wanted her to buy in. And so I had to help her understand how and what, how we're going to do it, what we're going to do, how we're going to manage it, how we're like, are we going to make money every single month? So that's what I had to do. And that's what got her over that hurdle. Now, my friend Tom, the reason why I bring this up, because everybody's different. Tom was sharing her all the hows and all the whats. That's all he was like, this is how, and what. And she was pushing back against it because she needed the why. Why are you doing this? We have jobs. And he wasn't realizing that he needed to give her the why. And then, we were talking one time, and I said, yeah, man, I had to tell my wife the what and how. He goes, oh, that's weird. I had to tell my wife the why. Anyway, so it's really trying to figure out the disconnect in your spouse and say, hey, where are you getting hung up? And let's talk through it. So if there's three things, it's the what you're going to do, the how you're going to do it, and the why you're going to do it. Usually that helps people. If in the end, and this is also kind of really fun too. One quick last thing. If in the end you cannot help your spouse to get on board with you, what you need to do is help them and you get better educated or get around other people. In fact, my podcast, we got 400 episodes of me just coaching how to do this stuff. And I've had students who weren't students in the beginning because their spouse wasn't on board, had their student, like they were driving in the car and they would play my podcast at certain episodes, like all these, different things of how to do it. And after a while, they're like, oh, I get it. So there's lots of different ways, but it's something that you're going to have to, just like marriage, just like, a relationship, you have to figure out where somebody is, where's a disconnect from what you believe to what they believe, and just keep working at it and you eventually get there.
And that helps you as well, right? You're building your own background because if you can't answer those questions and you can't give the person that foundation, then you might not know enough yet, right? So it's actually works out in everybody's favor in the end.
Absolutely. And on top of that, too, in fact, I was just talking to students of mine, Sean and Roberta. Roberta's bought it. She's found the podcast. She binged it like twice, like 400 episodes. Just listened to every single episode. So she was like, "I got it. I got it." Her husband was totally opposite. He's like, "No, we're not going to do it." And eventually, he started watching my YouTube videos. He started listening to podcasts too. He came to my conference. We have a real estate investor conference where we just bring all the students in. Hey, let's help everybody out. And that's when he was like, I get it. So it just takes just more immersion into understanding that it's possible, that thousands of people have done it before. I mean, real estate's been around forever. So if it's been done before, we can help you get past these hurdles.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people feel that they need to invest nearby, but you're in California. How did you choose these other states and decide to invest in those?
The whole thought of, and I had this thought, everybody has this thought, I got to invest in my backyard or the city so I can drive there and all that sort of stuff. Well, I realized in 2006 that I didn't have any money. Like my wife is a stay-at-home mom. I was working a government job, so you don't make a ton of money doing that. I didn't have much money. And so in California at the time, it was skyrocketing. I couldn't buy anything to make cash flow. And so I started investing in Ohio. I said, I have to be okay with investing out of state. Let me find the right people. Fast forward, my property manager started stealing from me because I was doing it wrong. Then I figured out the right way and I started implementing it the right way. Well, what I realized was if I don't need to personally be comfortable with a specific property, I need the experts to be comfortable with that property, contractors, inspectors, even your mortgage broker, property manager, realtor. Like if any one of them is like, I'm not so sure about this property, then you really start analyzing even more. If it's green light, green light, green light, green light, green light, I'm not the expert. In fact, like I told you, I got thousands of students now. Occasionally I'll say, hey, Dustin, you invest in this city. You're an expert. Tell me about this. I'm like, no, 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 no. I am not the expert. I might know some because I've invested there. Who are the experts? It's the people that we hire that live there in that city. So with me investing in 5 different states now, I've literally only seen one property before I bought it. I've only seen one. All the other ones, pictures, like physically seen one. The other ones, pictures and emails and inspection reports, all that sort of stuff. Because when you start realizing that you're not the expert, that's the biggest thing that I had to realize. And most people have to realize is that they're more than likely, and it's hard for us to admit this, I had to admit this too, more than likely people that are better than us. I'll speak to myself. More than likely, there's better people than me at finding properties, managing properties, fixing up properties. Once you realize that and realize that your time is so much more valuable than you trying to think, I'm going to do everything myself, because you can't scale. Once you get to 6, 7 properties, I see it time and time again. They start pulling their hair out because they're doing all the work. They're taking the calls. Tenants are pushing them over saying, oh, my son got arrested again. I had to bail him out again. Can I not pay rent? I guess that's no. We build a business and we do everything right. And when we do that, we're able to scale. And in that scaling, then that's when we become financially independent because we're having other people. And the last quick thing I'll say on this in your question is the most expensive thing that you could ever commodity that you could ever spend is your time, not money, not anything else. It's your time, because you can't create, make, earn any more time at all. Time is always going. So if you start realizing your time is so much more valuable than you trying to think that you can do everything better than anybody else, you maybe could. You may be the best property manager, the best this, best that. I'm the best dad for my kids. I'm the best person on the golf as I'm swinging, or if I'm going to the gym. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be doing that stuff. And then if you're doing it all yourself, you can't scale. You literally cannot scale because your time is so limited. I've seen it time and time again. In fact, that's the real estate investor roadmap. you need to start by buying your first property. And my students, when they buy, we build the business, and by the second month, they're putting in offers. And usually by the end of the second month, they have one offer already accepted, the business built, right people in place. And kid you not, Christine, because you work so hard building the business, it's just like buying another piece of or another candy bar, another piece of inventory. You've already worked all that out. Now the second property comes, no joke, for all my students within a month. So they get two properties in like 3 months, and then they start realizing, oh my goodness, as soon as I get other people and to do the work using their time, they want to do that. It's great. They love it.
Yeah.
If you have them use their time, you get all of your time back to do whatever it is that you want.
And that's the goal. That's the goal. So tell me a little bit about, you said you do some Airbnb type properties and stuff like that. How did you decide that that was the right choice for that particular property?
Oh, man, Christine, how do you ask these great questions? This is really good. I don't think I've ever got asked a question. So we do long-term 12-month leases. We do midterm 30, 60, 90 days. The traveling executives, traveling nurses, all that great stuff. I love those too. Short-term properties, that's Airbnb, VRBO. We even do co-living where you rent out per room. Those are fantastic. In fact, I think those are taking off. Like you'll see in the next 3 to 5 years, so many co-living, because it's so unaffordable right now that this is a way that millennials and Gen Z, is it Gen Z? I think, whatever. Yeah,
Whatever generation we're up to.
yeah, exactly. The youngest generation, they start thinking, man, I can't afford, let me just go live with other people. So we have all these options. What I love is buy and hold. Buy and hold. So I buy the properties, I hold it forever. I'll give them to my kids. I have 5 kids now, very blessed to have 5 kids, but I'll give these to my kids in generational wealth. And then to figure out what I'm going to do with each property. Number one, I never buy a property unless I could rent it out long term and make money. Meaning, I don't rent it out thinking, oh, I'm going to rent it out every single day on Airbnb. It's going to make $250 a day, blah, blah, blah. If you do that, you could get hurt. Trust me, I've seen it many times. People go, yeah, foreclosure and all that sort of stuff because, let's say, rents drop, people stop traveling, all that sort of stuff. So first, I find a city that has good inventory, lots of great properties, make sure that there's maybe 100,000 people in there, because people, no matter, it doesn't have to be Disneyland, it doesn't have to be, these Hawaii.
Right.
For Airbnb, you just need a good sized population, because there's always going to be weddings, graduations, funerals, parties, reunions. There's always going to be a reason to travel. So here's what I do: buy a home, making sure I know I can rent it long term and still make money. Check. Then I figure out what's the highest and best use case for this property. If it's going to be much better as a short-term rental, then I'll do that. I'll furnish it, get it rented, and I make more cash flow. Here's what I really love though. I love short-term, don't get me wrong. My portfolio is made up of about 80% single family homes of my single family homes, 80% are long-term. I love long-term because I don't do a thing. The property is, and I don't hear from the tenants. It's so little maintenance, but you make less money. My favorite out of all three is midterm. Midterm, somebody stays in there 30, 60, 90 days. They're much more invested than a short term. You make more rents than long term. So every single property, we make sure we rent it long term, but we figure out what's the highest and best use case for it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah. So you do it based on like the demand in that particular city based for short-term or midterm rentals.
Correct.
Cool. Do you have a favorite area? I mean, have you visited any of these kind of towns and you have like, yeah, this is kind of a cute town, and maybe because that is an advantage, a potential advantage that people can have with real estate investing, right? You get paid to go visit, or it's a tax deduction when you go visit your place. So have you thought about investing like in other countries and other sort of places where you enjoy visiting?
So the idea of investing, because when I was first starting investing, I could buy a home in Hawaii, so whenever I go there, I could live. Here's my thought: I don't want to do that because I don't mind. Here, a bunch of things are coming to my head. So we travel a ton. I don't like going back to the same place over and over again. We've been to Japan, Israel. We've been to 8. In fact, we did 6 weeks in Japan once with my family, 6 weeks in Europe, 11 different countries. We love traveling to Mexico, Canada, all these other places, cruises. And so if I bought one house in one place, then I'm going to have to keep going back there, which is not bad. Some people, it's great for them. But I'd much rather be able to choose where, oh, I'm just going to do Airbnb over here. I'm going to do Airbnb over there. So what I do is I buy good investments that I know will make me money that I can afford these things. Now, if you remember the quick, my wife won't let me tell you or anybody how much we make every single month from our properties, but I'll give you some round numbers. We have over 30 properties. We have most of the properties I'm making at least $600 a month in passive income. I have some properties making me $2,000, $3,000 a month in passive income. And I have hotel apartment complexes. So we make a lot of money. And so I could go anywhere that I want to invest. And so what I do is I focus on investing in my business so I can keep making more money and then I can travel anywhere. But here's another thought. You might be thinking, man, I really love going to this my mountain or in the mountains where I live. I love going there every single year, 5 times a year, whatever it might be. Then that's great. This is just how I am. Absolutely buy that and then rent it out short term so that you can check it out whenever you want, or block it off so you can go stay there. 100%. Now that's the beautiful thing about real estate investing is it gives us freedom. That's the ultimate thing. Just like your book, Empower Your Inner Millionaire. If you have that mentality, it's like, how do I keep moving forward to get freedom in my life of money, time, relationships, where you're able to have that time to develop your relationships and serving other people. If you are able to do that, and so I definitely, everybody should be reading that book, Empower Your Inner Millionaire. The title alone makes me want to do that because we don't
Thanks,
think
Dustin.
that we are millionaires. And the reason why is because we don't have our bank account showing us that. But in the end, what being a millionaire is, it's obviously it's going to show when you have that in your account or you have all these properties, but it's a mindset. If you took away everything that you or I have, like in our lives, I built all this up, everything you built up, you take it all away, I could build it right back 10 times faster.
Exactly.
Because I have that in my mindset. So I love that book. I love that. That's something that we need to focus on, and then we just start implementing it. So long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's great. That's perfect. Awesome. And you're right. I mean, we talk a lot about that on this show is mindset. That if you're not already a millionaire, there's one in there. You just need to feed it, believe in it, let it out, and that's really what it boils down to. And it seems so simple, but it actually is simple, right? What does it feel like to have, what do you do? Like it's back to the Boys and Girls Club. I talked to them a lot about wealth. And I said to one of the girls, I said, what do you want? I want to be rich. I said, well, what is that? What is that? What are you going to buy? What's the first thing you're going to buy? And just so it's Lamborghini. I said, what color? And I was just like, okay. And then what, and then what does it feel like to drive a Lamborghini? Have you ever sat in one? Like you just like get your mind to this point. It's not like a make-believe thing, right? It's if you just like, just throwing out stupid things. Oh, I need $6 million a month. Okay. And what are you going to do with that $6 million a month? Like let's just really get into brass tacks to where you're instead of just dreaming it, you're planning it. And that's right. And that's what has to happen in order for us to make that transition. I say transition, which is what you say when people die, but in a way it's like a metamorphosis maybe is a better word.
I 100% agree. And it's a lack of options too. So definitely getting your book. Everybody keep coming back to Christine's podcast,
Thank
listen
you.
over and over again, because what's going to happen is you have your limited options right now. In fact, we all did this. We go to school and we get programmed to be a cog in a machine that just keeps moving and making somebody else rich. And you don't know all the options that are out there. You become compliant when you go to school. When you realize how many different options there are out there, I'll give you a quick one. You could become a bookkeeper. Very simple job, very, very simple job, and become financially independent. You could have just maybe 10 clients and get all your expenses paid for with just that. Or you could be a podcast editor. My daughter, I'm paying her, I think $750 a month. She's 16 now. $750 a month to edit my podcast and a couple other podcasts that are a part of the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. We got 8 shows now, other hosts that do all the shows, but I pay her to do this. And so if your mindset is, I want freedom, it's what are my options to get there? And then one will resonate with you better than the other. And so what I suggest is here's the ultimate thing to get ultimate freedom, in my opinion. You either start with business or start with real estate or do both at the same time. So what I did was real estate. I bought as much real estate as I could where I had cash flow, and then I had extra time. So I built businesses. Another way is you build businesses on your, let's say, start a side hustle, and then you grow that, they call it moonlighting or something. Like you just keep doing that until it's big enough to take over your job. And then you start making more and more money, and then you put that into real estate. So real estate and business, it's the same thing. Real estate's a business. Remember, stop being an investor, become a business owner. Same thing with with business. You create a business, well, you have extra capital. I won't share. Well, I'll share. I pay almost no money in taxes because of all the real estate they own. All of the tax code, I'm not dodging it. I'm following exactly the way it's written because the people that wrote it for
Our real
themselves.
estate investors.
Exactly. Business owners, real estate investors. It's written by them for them. So if we just follow they basically made a plan, a map for us to follow to become wealthy, and we get less money in taxes. It's amazing what you want to do. Get passive income, build businesses, invest in real estate. You do all that and change your mindset to where you now have options. Keep coming back and listen to the Christine show. Get these options in your brain so that you can have, oh, here's a problem. Well, let me figure out how to solve that problem. And then now I have more options.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Dustin, this has been really awesome. And we've touched on a ton of different subjects, but is there anything in particular that you want to make sure that people walk away with, even if it's just to reiterate something that we've talked about?
Totally. The biggest thing that I would say is a couple things. You want to build business, no matter what business it is. Could be bookkeeping, podcast editing, investing in real estate. You build the business and you get the other experts to do it. That's number one. Number two is you always make income every single month. Do not do anything unless you're making money every single month. That's the goal. I love successfully employed, that term, as opposed to being retired early. In fact, when I quit at 37 years old, I was telling people I was retired. And I all of a sudden saw like a disconnect. They're like, what do you do with your time? You're 37. You're like, what do you? I'm like, oh, I do plenty. I invest in real estate, I build businesses. So now the term is successfully unemployed because that gets more wheels rolling.
Yeah.
But the next one, the last one is be be determined. Be determined because there's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be times where you're like,
Persistence, right?
oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do, or there's this tough month, or this happened. If you're not determined, it's all going to go away. More than likely, 80% of the population, I believe, it's great for them just to be employees. They're made, and they love that, and they're going to do that. But not for the people that listen to your show, people that listen to my show, or they're the other 20% of the population. We do not let roadblocks stop us. Those roadblocks come, but more than likely, there's a way around it. You just don't know what it is. And so you need to be around the right people. You need to educate yourself. You maybe even get a coach, keep listening to podcasts and keep growing. And with that determination, will help you to figure out what that problem is and how to solve it. Because I think everybody, if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, real estate investor, whatever it might be, you're a problem solver. If you really boil everything down, you solve a problem. Oh, I don't have money to buy the property. Well, that's a problem. Let's figure out how to solve it. Or I don't have a property. Well, that's a problem. Let's figure out how to solve it. More than likely, somebody's figured it out, so you can do it too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I mean, a lot of people would have had that first property. Their property manager would have stolen from them, and they would have said, I'm just not cut out for this. I suck at this. I just, this is too hard, whatever. And that would have been the end of it. But you need that persistence. You need that determination to just say, oh, okay, that was a lesson, an expensive one, but I won't do that again. Let me try something, right? Let's figure out how I can make sure that that never happens again. And then it's just take everything as a learning curve, as a lesson. And again, mindset.
You're
Excellent. Excellent
100% right.
advice. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dustin. It's been super having you here. And make sure you check out Dustin's website. Dustin's podcast. Oh my God, I had a little brain fart there. Make sure you check out Dustin's podcast, Master Passive Income, because that's what you want to do. And you can tell that he has tons to teach and the right attitude and the right knowledge base and the right everything to teach to you. So think right now, 5 people, 10 people that you can share this episode with, people who maybe they love their job, but maybe they don't want to have to do it for the rest of their life, or people who maybe would like to make a change. Forward this episode to them. They will thank you, and Dustin and I will thank you too. In the meantime, have a fabulous week.